Hello and welcome to this week's Elite Audio video, and I am returned after having a complete skive last week because Graham, my marketing manager, and myself jetted off to Munich for the High-End HiFi Show 2024. If you're curious to find out how we got on, please stay tuned because all is about to be revealed. So here we are back in the land of Scotland and again back at the Elite Audio headquarters, here nestling nicely in the East Neuk of Fife once again. And what an incredible trip that was. I've got so much to talk about. I will do my very best, which I'm not, I have to say, renowned for, to get this into as short a space of time as I possibly can. So I'm just going to dive straight in here with our trip. First of all, I've got to say, if you haven't been to Munich, I would highly recommend it. It is, first of all, a very beautiful city, very friendly people. I found the most incredible Indian restaurant that I would highly recommend. The food was very authentic. In fact, Graham and I ate there 2 nights in a row. That's how good it was. But anyway, that was not the purpose of the trip, but it was an added bonus nonetheless. And their Vindaloo, certainly, let's just say, it defined a new level of perspiration for me, set a new standard. Anyway, so we arrived on the Thursday morning, and I have to say hi to Terry Ellis. He was one of the first people we met as we arrived. If you've never met Terry, he is honestly one of the most genuinely nice people you will ever meet. Such an enthusiastic individual, very talented, especially, you know, he's very talented on his video production, but his reviews are brilliant. I love watching Terry's reviews. I'll put a little link to Terry's website below, but if you get a chance, please check him out. He's absolutely brilliant. So the first room we entered into was the Zen Sati room, and we met there Mark and Joanna from Zen Sati. I've got to say, the way that they'd laid the cables out at the back of the main system, which was primarily a Broadman loudspeaker system, it was like a work of art. I've got to say, the attention to detail, it must have, I can't even start to think how long that must have taken to put together. It was so impressive, genuinely, and I love when someone takes the care and attention, just even from a presentation perspective. And what's interesting with that room is that obviously it's all Zen Sati, and if you've watched any of our previous videos, you will know that, in my opinion, the Zen Sati cables, in terms of price performance, are currently the best out there. We've had a lot of clients recently where we have lent them a cable. In fact, we have got a Zen Sati home trial program. Again, I'll put that in the details below, where you can try with no risk at home, compare it to what you have. So far, we haven't had anyone not keep the cables they've tried. And in fact, they haven't just kept the cables they've tried, they've actually bought other cables to replace existing cables. That's how good they are. And that was reflected in the sound here. It's interesting, the first room that we went into was, in our opinion, and we discussed this at length and also on the flight home, what we thought were the best rooms. The Zen Sati Broadman room was spectacular. In fairness, the Broadman speakers, which are the JB205s, they also had the active bass unit. I think that's north of £200,000. If anybody knows, if I'm wrong with that, please correct me in your comments below. But it was just, I could have honestly just sat there for 2 entire days listening to all my favourite music. It was brilliant. Mark was talking about the new X series cables that they have developed, which are much more flexible than the old. Just such an impressive design concept. It's all about dampening and making sure that there's no resonance going through the cable. It's very clever, and in fact we'll be getting privy to some white papers on that very soon, so I can tell you a little bit more. But that was spectacular, and what a great way to start. We then left there and we headed off to see a good friend at Electro Compagnie, Lasse Danielsen. Again, one of the nicest people you'll meet in the industry. They were sharing a room with Audio Physic, and their main amplification was the AW800, but in stereo mode. And what's interesting about that amplifier, in fact, if you look now, there is so many outstanding reviews for this amplifier. I know that Lynn and Stu at HiFi Pig, they have one which they bought for their own system as their reference amplifier. Later on, when we were in the Revival Audio room, they were using an 800M, again, because of how good it is. There are so many great reviews. There's a HiFi News Award on it, and in fact, HiFi News have got the new AW300 monos, which again, Electro Compagnie had there with the, it was the new Audio Physic Tempo, which they've now brought out with the new spiralist design mid-range. We then went on to, which actually, this was great. I have to say, this is such a, I'd say, a feel-good story. We first started dealing with Lindemann a number of years ago, more than I'd ever care to mention. And for whatever reason, about 4 years ago, I think approximately, I think it was pre-COVID, they decided that they wanted to try a different distributor, which is fine. The one thing, I don't take these things personally. Business is business, and people have got different reasons for doing different things. Anyway, for whatever reason, that didn't work out, and we have reconnected, and boy, am I glad we have, because I love the Lindemann products. They are handmade in Germany. Elizabeth, Norbert, and Christopher are again 3 of the warmest, nicest people you will meet. Norbert is an absolute electronic genius, and that's all I can say. The quality of the components that go into all of their devices is the best, bar none. We got a chance to have a listen to their loudspeaker, which I've never heard before, but it's a full range spiralist design driver with a super tweeter, and they had it connected to an active bass unit, which is new as well. So the Lindemann Move, which is the loudspeaker, they also had the Move Mini, which was also playing. I can tell you now, that was probably the second best sound that we heard at the show. It really took me by surprise. In fact, as we were going in, the HiFi Plus guys were coming out, and Tom from HiFi Plus, if you're watching this, thanks for the beer on the Friday, it's much appreciated. And so yeah, and they themselves were very taken by the sound, so much so that you'll see in HiFi Plus a review of the Move and the Groove, which is the active bass unit. It was just a brilliant sound. We had a Lindemann Source 2, which was playing directly into the loudspeakers, which when you add the Groove gives you an active setup. It was brilliant. It was honestly brilliant. And then we heard the brand new launch at Munich is the Woodnote series, and they were playing that into the Move Mini. And again, that was a wow. I mean, it was just fantastic, genuinely fantastic. The Move speakers are a crossover list design. There's one capacitor, full range. They go down to about 40 hertz on their own, but even without the bass unit connected, it sounded way deeper. So articulate, so natural. Again, that's a room I could have stayed and spent my entire 2 days there. It was really that good. And of course, the warmth and friendliness of Elizabeth and Norbert. And I think there was a lot of, let's say there was a lot of mutual love in the room. We're really excited to be working with Lindemann again, and I think that's reflected by their opinion too. So look out for new reviews. The Woodnote. See, it's a musical theme. I'm just getting carried away with myself. The Woodnote series, which was beautifully engineered, and that's coming out in about a month's time, and you'll see more of that in future videos. So I reluctantly had to drag myself and Graham out of that room, and genuinely the time flew by when we were in there. It was seriously impressive. And then we went to visit May Park from SOTM, and if you don't know what SOTM means, it stands for Soul of the Music, and they were featuring their brand new launched SMS 2000. Now, we don't have the pricing yet, but we will have that very soon. But the tech specs and the fit and finish looked very impressive indeed, and I honestly cannot wait to add that to our listening portfolio here at Elite Audio. There's so much to see there. I mean, honestly, it is like the Aladdin's cave of your favourite things. Everywhere you look, there is something of interest. I think there was something like over 1,000 different brands there. That gives you an idea of the vastness of it, and it is huge. You spend your whole day just walking everywhere. It's probably the best workout I've had, apart from a morning workout that I do daily, but this would give it a pretty good run for its money because you're on your feet the whole time. And it was lovely to meet May, such a genuinely lovely lady. He was so friendly and welcoming, and I want to thank you, May, if you're watching this, for that welcome. It was very much appreciated. As we were heading off to our next appointment, we passed the project display, and immediately I was captivated by the new classic reference. There's two versions of it. There's one in the kind of a brass gold finish. I think the retail price is going to be around about £6,000. Brand new platter and brand new tone arm design compared to the old model. But it looked great. Didn't hear one running. But if it sounds as good as it looks, that's going to be a great addition to the project stable of incredible turntables. And also, again, when we were en route to our next appointment, we passed the HiFi row stand. And I've got to say, as a striking aesthetic, their brand new DAC, which is the RD160, which is coming out autumn, I think is what they said, using the AKM Velvet chipset, but a very clever modular design. You'll see there's some very unique features that this DAC has. I guess it's been brought out to match with the RS130 Transport. I love the display on this device. It was unlike anything I've seen anywhere else. It's using their version of the AKM Velvet chipset, and the anticipated retail price is somewhere around £4,000 or £5,000, as I was told. It was a dummy device that was there, so again, there was nothing running that we could listen to, but I thought it looked particularly good, I have to say. Now, I can't wait to tell you about this. We had the pleasure to meet Gediminas from Audio Solutions and his lovely wife, who own Audio Solutions, and he welcomed us into their listening room where they were using Java amplification into their Figaro XL2 and S2 speakers. Now, this really surprised me beyond anything else that I would say I heard the 2 days we were there. So we went in and he said, is there any particular tracks you'd like to play? So there's a couple of favourites I have. They usually get played to death at shows, but I like them just the same and I know them inside and out. And the first one is Stevie Ray Vaughan and Tin Pan Alley. I'm sure you've heard it. If you haven't, look it up. If you have a listen, you'll recognise it straight away. But in the right system, this can sound amazing, but it can also equally sound really bad. So the first thing was Graham and I were chatting, and I didn't have a price list at this point, and we were listening to the XL2s, which are the big speakers, and they are physically large. Now, bearing in mind, having come from rooms with loudspeakers of, north of £200,000 and the sound that I kind of heard in there, sitting down, listening to, it was the new Java Carbon amplifier, which we'll be having on demonstration sometime very soon here, and it was a double shot version. And that's sort of round about the £14,000 mark. So I did know the price of that. And I said to Graham, so we started listening and I whispered over and said, how much do you think the speakers are? And we kind of sort of had a little discussion between us. My gut feel based on what I was hearing, and also big usually means more expensive. We kind of thought somewhere around 50,000 would be, if that's what we were told, it wouldn't have been a great surprise. I literally fell off my chair when Jereminas said they're about 21,000. They're actually £20,800 starting price. You can actually configure these to be higher based on options that are available both in finish and actual specification. I was just astonished based on what I was hearing and that price. It honestly is incredible. And then he said, let's have a listen to, do you want to hear the smaller ones? And we said, yeah, of course. So I was just very quickly, just before he was swapping them over, just researching something about track to play, and it was something I've got in my Cobuzz playlist. So I kind of just lost attention for a second, and then I sort of put my head back up, and Jereminas is sort of standing here, and I said, oh, you're not putting the smaller ones on? He says, they are on. So they literally swapped them live at the back of the speaker terminals, which I don't advise anybody to do, by the way, because if you touch those together, even accidentally, that could be a hefty repair bill on your amplifier. But anyway, swapped them live. I hadn't really noticed them doing it, but I hadn't really heard the difference in tonality. And when I then sort of played the track again, I could tell there was certainly less depth to the bass, which you would expect given the physical difference in dimensions. And then I got them to swap them back in again. But the beauty of this is the tonality was the same. So meaning that if you then go from one model in the range, from say the S model in the Figaro series all the way up to XL2, there is the absolute consistency, which is real testimony to his build process in how they sound. He also allowed us to preview their loudspeaker configurator, which he's bringing out in a couple of months' time, which was hugely impressive. You can spend, I could actually spend hours on this, trying different color combinations. You can have different trim down the side, different top, different covers for your speakers, front panel different to back panel, top either a normal color or matching the rest of the speaker. You can option standard terminals, WBT terminals. You can even upgrade the internal wiring. There's so much you can do, and it was a lot of fun. And again, I can imagine a lot of, I know how as audio enthusiasts we are, and in fact we let Andrew, our sales manager, loose with it earlier today, and he was gone for like an hour just messing around with the different specs that you can use. But that all aside, the combination of the Java amplifier and the Audio Solutions speakers were incredible. I mean, really genuinely incredible. I honestly cannot wait to have these here in the UK. They are amazing, absolutely amazing. Anyway, that was a great time for Graham and I listening to that. And again, thank you to Jereminas and his wife for making us very welcome. We were then heading off for our next appointment, and we walked past the Musical Fidelity stand, which was static actually, but they had the new 600.2 new Vista integrated. I'm not aware of what the price is going to be, but I suspect, bearing in mind the 800.2 is around the £10,000 mark, I suspect this will be probably £7,000 to £8,000, which would then sit nicely below the 800. Beautifully made, lovely looking amplifier. And if it's anything as good as the 800.2, that's something, again, we can't wait to get here at Elite Audio, but beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Anyway, we then arrived at our next appointment, which was Octave, and we sat down with Andreas Hoffman, who's the owner of Octave and the designer of their amazing amplifiers. But before we got into any discussion, we had a really good listen to the brand new MRE 220 SE monos, and they were playing into a pair of Kef loudspeakers. It's the first in the Octave range that actually adjusts the damping factor to ensure that you get the best combination between the amplifier and the loudspeakers. And that was hugely impressive. There's a Leonard Cohen track that they played which was phenomenal. I mean, it just really was great. And it was almost, we were quite close to or I was quite close to the speakers. Graham, I think, was sitting in the row behind me. But, you know, even in near field listening, hugely impressive. And as you'll know, I'm a huge fan of Octave. They're probably the best engineered valve amplifiers. It was interesting chatting to Andreas afterwards, and I'll come back to the star of the show, which was the new Jubilee Ultimate mono blocks, which we listened to, and oh my goodness me, just drive control. I mean, they're 440 watts output using KT170 valves. They sounded amazing. Anyway, we were sitting down with Andreas and we were chatting about the industry and talking about, you know, different valve manufacturers. And he made a very telling point. I'll not mention brand names, but he did mention a few. That when you look at the design of them, there are certain aspects of it that will affect the life expectancy and the longevity of how long they will last. Now, that is not a reflection of how they sound, because he mentioned this brand, it's a good sounding amplifier. He said, but once they got 3 years into that product cycle, there was a lot going faulty because there was aspects of the way the valves and the enclosure in the valves was causing the whole amp to overheat. And he showed us a picture and he said, look at that gap there. He says, that's the only gap to allow air or convection to cool the amplifier down. He said, that's never going to be enough. He said, that amp at some point will fail prematurely. So I think this highlights the fact that there's a lot to valve amplifier design that's not just about how it sounds, because obviously there is no benefit to anybody buying something that is going to fail in 3 years' time. It's almost guaranteed to fail. And this is where Octave, I believe, have got one of the best, most reliable, over-engineered amplifier range when it comes to valves, and they all sound really impressive. So again, I kind of dragged myself away from that listening space because the Jubilee Ultimate monos were just staggeringly good and so beautifully made. The build and construction and the aesthetic, I mean, they're big. They're kind of like mini towers. They're almost like a sort of a upright, narrow design subwoofer to a certain extent in terms of the aesthetic, but way better in terms of finish and the options you can have and what you can put on them. If anybody has a budget for these, you'd never want for anything ever again. We then left there, as I say, reluctantly, and we went to the JCAT audio room and listened to the new Exact, which if you've watched Terry Ellis's review, and I will put the link to that in the description below, that is really well worth watching because Terry has a lot of background knowledge in computer audio engineering. He's built many of his own music servers, and you can see exactly how and why Terry was utterly captivated by the Exact. They were featuring a new Evo model, which is going to sit above the standard. It's about £4,000 more, so it'll come in at about £16,000. We had a listen to them in a pair of speakers whose name I've forgotten, but they were a big horn active setup. They were running it into a DAC and then into a 300B 2-box preamplifier. Very impressive. Very, very, very impressive. And they've just finished designing a brand new, probably ultimate network switch for those that demand nothing but the best in their system, and that's going to be around about £6,000 when it comes out. And again, we will keep you posted on the progress of that. Finally, and again, a room I loved going into was the Revival audio room, meeting with Jackie and Zeno from Revival. Again, two amazing individuals and friendly, knowledgeable, huge expertise within that company. They were showing the new finishes for the Atalante series, which is like a sort of black or a dark striped ebony. You'll see in the video that's in certain light, the striping of the veneer really shows up. Again, interesting, they were using the Electro Compagnie AW800 as their main amplification. And boy, can that amp drive anything. It's just got so much headroom. I mean, it's just a brilliant, brilliant amplifier to listen to. But the new finishes look great. They've got something, like I guess like all manufacturers, I can't say too much, but they've got something new that is in the pipeline that we had a sneak listen to. My goodness. Yeah, I played another track of mine that I love is the Deep Purple track, Lazy. And it is just a brilliant piece of music. If you, it's on the Machine Head album. It starts off with a Hammond organ. In fact, Deep Purple love to use distortion pedals with an organ, and you can hear that precisely on this track. I'd recommend it. It's brilliant because it's just one of those progressive pieces of music that goes and goes and goes, and there's so many different facets to it. And I actually didn't want to turn it off. That's how much I was enjoying that track. And it's a long track, it's about 9 minutes long. And given we were on a very tight time schedule, that probably wasn't my best choice, but I just couldn't help myself. I had to hear it to its conclusion. It was so good. And everything Revival do is incredible value for money. The Atalanti 4s that, in fact, we've got a pair of those with Paul Miller at HiFi News at this moment in time, and Paul himself is going to be doing the review. It was a pair that Terry reviewed a couple of months back that Terry loved. In fact, after he'd taken them out and he put something else in, he was telling us he wished he had them back again. He actually didn't realise just how really good they were until he could compare them with this other speaker that he put into his system. And that's testimony to what Revival do. They've got a lot of very clever technology, but if any of you were in our room at the Bristol HiFi show back in February and you heard the Atalanti 4s, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Many people thought they were well over £10,000 when they're about £4,000. They are truly a high-end speaker, but with a, I would say, mid-range price tag, and they are really great value for money. So if you like the aesthetic, you will definitely like the sound. And again, listening to them in that room with the music, with the Electro Compagnie amplifier, it was a great combination. So thank you again to Jackie and Zeno for making us very welcome into that room. In fact, what was interesting, which I've been to Munich before, but right across the road from the exhibition centre is this big place called Motor World. Look it up online. It's like got this massive display of car exotica. In fact, Mark Johansson had a Mark I Honda NSX there, which I'll bring a picture of that up so you can see with Zensati on the side. There are just so many great cars, McLarens, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, all on display, completely free to go into, and it was actually nice to get a sort of a half-hour wander through there on our lunch break in between appointments. But, so there we go, that was Munich in a nutshell for us. There's lots more, obviously, but, we're not in the media side of the business, and these are brands that are very personal and important to us, and we're very excited about what they have shown at Munich and what's coming to the UK shores very shortly. And if any of you have any interest in any of these new products, please reach out. Here's my direct email. You can email me, even if it's just for some unbiased advice because you're buying, if you're in another country. I'm more than happy to impart my 20 odd years of experience in the audio industry if that helps you in some way. But if you have any interest specifically in any of the brands or new products that I've mentioned here, again, please get in touch. All our contact details are at the end of this video. I want to thank everybody that's booked to come to our showroom event this weekend. I think we're right on capacity as it stands. I'm not sure. I was checking with Graham before I came in here and we're almost at capacity. I think we've got 1 or 2 places left. So there may be still time to book it. The forecast actually looks pretty good. And considering we've come through the longest period of really bad weather that I can ever remember, that is something incredibly positive, and it'll be good because it means that you can eat your pizzas outside. But more importantly, we've got our streamer shootout. We've got everything primed, prepared and ready for you to go through this process. We'll end up with 1 winner and a knockout round by round. We've also got Andrew, or Dr. Forsyth, as he's known in some countries, doing his valve rolling clinic. And that's something that you'll find fascinating just in that process. As I mentioned before, we've got representatives here from English Acoustics, REL, from Paradigm and from Ineos. And you can spend the whole day picking the knowledge from their brains about what makes their products special compared to others. So it'll be a great day. It's our annual event. It's always a friendly atmosphere. It's good fun, and If you booked to come, thank you. If you're still thinking, please book. It'd be an absolute pleasure to meet you. You'll get a chance to meet the Elite Audio team when you're here. Finally, as I always do, a favour to ask of you. If you're enjoying this video or if you enjoyed any of our previous videos, please just take a few seconds to like the video and subscribe to our channel. It really does mean a great deal to us here at Elite Audio. And if you do, I'm really grateful for you taking the time to do that. So thank you in advance. And thank you to all of those of you who have already liked and subscribed to our channel. It really does mean a lot. So there we go. That's this week's video. Next week, we'll have a roundup of our showroom event so you can see who won that shootout. You'll see all the products that were listed there and how each round went, what products won each round. It's a blind test, so nobody will know what they are listening to other than it's streamer A, streamer B, and streamer C. We've got an electronic voting system if you bring your mobile phone. For those of you that don't, then we will have a manual voting card system. And I can't wait to see who wins. You'll find out who it is next week, actually, because I'll be using that for our next week's video. So thanks for watching this week. As ever, have a great week listening to music. And please take care, and I will see you next week.